Hello fellow tankers, Space Bandit here with another episode of World of Tanks, and today I bring you a game in my M48 Patton. What we're gonna cover today are three things. We're gonna focus on gameplay, obviously, as I always do, and I will commentate over my gameplay and what I do in the game. We're also gonna talk about greed and how greed impairs judgment. I'll talk about this later on in the game, but we'll cover that topic. We're also going to cover a topic of what makes a good game, what makes a close game, which everyone is pretty much striving for. Everyone wants to be involved in good games, close games, not one-sided games as we usually see in World of Tanks, especially recently. So M48 Patton. M48 Patton was probably one of my first tier 10 tanks. Actually, if I remember correctly, it was my first tier 10 tank. I played extensively in it. Just recently, Patton has received some significant buffs with respect to gun performance. Reload time was buffed from 8.8 seconds to 8.35 seconds. Aim time was reduced from 2 seconds to 1.9 seconds. As well as tank's collision model was updated to reflect HD model, which in turn buffed its turret armor slightly, meaning it has become a lot more bouncy than it used to be. So now it is much better tank to play than it was 2 years ago. This is the first time I've taken my M48 out since about 2 years ago, believe it or not. I haven't played this tank at all. It's been sitting in my garage for a long time because I have so many tanks to play, so many better tanks really. I didn't really feel like playing this tank. But now after recent buffs, I thought I may as well try to take it out and see what it's made of. So I'm not really used to playing this tank. I've played maybe 10 games in this tank last weekend, so keep that in mind, guys. The biggest thing to get used to when compared to other tanks is definitely its shell velocity. This tank has unbelievable shell velocity. I think it's in a range of 1400 meters per second. Actually, to be exact, it's 1478 meters per second. And of course, Patton has excellent view range. 420 meters of view range. Probably one of the best, if not the best, view range in the game. M48 is known for very well armored turret. Its only weak point on the turret is that big cupola or commander's hatch, but the front of the turret is 254 millimeters. This tank has become extremely playable, therefore I will consider playing a lot more in it to see how it really performs. Okay, enough about the tank, let's concentrate on the gameplay now. So, Swamp is a very interesting map because it's considered as very campy, and it can be, because there is wide open area in the middle that's quite exposed. So tanks usually like to sit on H line for south spawn and D line for north spawn, which are usual locations for heavy tanks and tank destroyers. What I found on this map, especially if you draw the south spawn, going into the J1 area, J2 area where I initially went, will give you nice side shots into tanks trying to creep into the H2 area. So that position is very strong, but you have to get there very early in the game so that you can negate the team, the opposing team, from coming up onto the H2 line. And usually North spawn makes the biggest mistake of coming here into this area, because when they do, they get into the crossfire situation, because if we have tanks in J2 area and there are tanks in H4 area, it basically creates crossfire. So normally the tanks that come here usually die, and if the opposing team sends very significant numbers into this area, it basically decides the outcome of the game. So beware, guys, whenever you're playing North spawn, beware of coming into H2 area. It's a very dangerous area. I would not recommend it. It is a much better solution for the North spawn is to go to the C7 sector, try to spot the opposing team there, and then try to go through the 8 line to get to our side of the map. So as you've noticed, our team basically crowded the H2 area. We took out quite a few enemy tanks already, but we have exposed the opposing flank, and enemy tanks started creeping onto the J7 sector. So J7 is actually a very wonderful position to be in, especially for the north spawn, and that's the one I was referring to. if you take the 8 line, the best solution is to creep up into the F8 area or F7 area, and there's a little hill over there that you can come up and be perfectly safe. So as you can see, 4 of our tanks came back to defend the base because we've noticed that the flank has been exposed, but unfortunately the other half of our team still decided to push the Red's base. It would have been a better solution for them to come back and defend with us here and clean up this area here, but unfortunately it's not always the case in World of Tanks. As you guys know, everyone has a mind of its own, but regardless, we're still in a pretty decent situation. I think we can still handle this. But the biggest concern is that the opposing team does have the middle of the map. So what's going to be happening is they're going to be starting to push our tanks in the middle and then push the tanks that are actually trying to get into the Red's base. So I came back here to support and defend the base, but looks like the Reds stopped their push and they're kind of hanging around that area there, the G7 area. Therefore there was no longer any shots for me there. I decided to come to the other side here and support my team that is pushing their base. As you can see, we've already lost the middle of the map and there is one heavy tank there that's getting outnumbered and he's gonna die pretty soon. In the meantime, I auto-aimed like a pleb and I missed a shot. Although Patton is known for very good gun when it comes to accuracy, especially on the move, so I was actually surprised I didn't hit it. But now, because we're getting outflanked, looks like all of our tanks are gonna die. The only tank left at this point is the IS-7, and I fully expect him to die as well, because he's got really no support. And there are heavy tank destroyers sitting on the hill on the opposing side. And yeah, he's not gonna survive for much more. So here I'm looking for a shot on a bad shot, but unfortunately it was extremely hard for me to find the shot because bad shot was smart and basically was sitting behind the IS-7, so I couldn't really find a shot. And when I did find the opportunity to shoot at him, IS-7 backed into my shot and unfortunately my shell bounced. So I've sat in that position for a little bit too long and I actually got 2 shells put into me for almost 700 damage, which wasn't very good. But I did manage to put 1 shell into the bad shot and I decided to drop slightly. Now my job is to hold this flank and see if anybody's coming from this side, or at least show my opposition that there is someone here to stop them from crossing into the open field. As you can see, we're currently losing this game. Is 3-5, well now it's 3-4. But the problem here is that we are basically left with a lot of armor and the opposing team is left with a lot of mobility. And they still have 3 autoloaders left. A Batshot, Tier 9 AMX, as well as Skoda T50. So at this point, I was thinking to myself, it's going to be a very difficult task to win this game. All I can do is basically try to support my heavies. And as you can see here, guys, and that's what I was explaining in some of my videos before, when you're low on numbers and when you're defending, always defend in numbers. So basically, always come back to your team. That way, they can provide you with firepower if you're close. If someone is actually trying to YOLO you, it basically makes it impossible for them to do so because you do have other guns in play at the same time. So every time try to outnumber the opposition. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So basically, the 2 heavy tanks are holding the other flank. So what I'm doing is I'm holding the flank from this side. And what I'm saying to them here is don't move, let's defend this position, because our best chance of winning right now is to defend this spot here. So we're becoming a little bit passive at the moment, but that's for a reason. They have a lot of speed, 3 autoloaders. So last thing I want for them is to jump me and take me out of the game. We have to play smart over here and we have to keep together. And I do have a view range, so I can spot them coming pretty reasonably. So here you can see both of them are trying to come up from J3 area. So I'm calling my team here to help me now, so that they can pay attention to this area of the map. And they can basically turn their guns in this direction, and we can start defending together. I'm very skeptical of poking right now. I don't want to lose any health points. I want to maintain my health point pool. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to poke up and see if I can take a few shots. So here I managed to hit the AMX, but I draw only a critical. I try to see if I have another shot at him, but unfortunately I don't. He's behind the building, so he basically ran away. But so, as you can see now, the two of our heavy tanks actually are paying attention to that side of the map now. So this is my cue not to abandon the other side. If they are turning their attention to the H4 sector, I need to turn my attention to the middle of the map. I have a good view range here, so I can just poke out and see if I can outspot somebody. I do spot the Batchat coming through the middle, trying to take a shot at him. Unfortunately, he hid behind a hill, I think, and I couldn't get him. But I'm gonna keep on doing the same here. I'm gonna try to keep on spotting them and trying to take shots. Quick snapshots. Again, we're in a very defensive mode here, and I'm not gonna move from this position, and I hope my tanks don't move. My heavy tanks don't move from this position, because that's the only way we can win this game. If we can stick together right in here. This is a good defensive position we have right now. So it's gonna be a wait game and try to poke, take shots. I see Scott at T50. I take a shot, I take him out, and I'm so damn proud of it that I basically said great shot myself, because I was surprised I hit it. But one very dangerous tank gone from the game. Only 3 of their tanks left, the tank destroyer and 2 fast autoloaders. So I spot their tank destroyer coming across the field. I thought I actually was gonna be able to hit him, but unfortunately RNG says no. But I'm gonna try to come back into this location and see if I can get another shot at him. I can't. In the meantime, AMX 1390 is rounding, is actually doing a very smart thing. He's rounding us through K-line and distracting us. And Batchat pokes up through G6. I managed to track him. I tried to put my turret, my strong armor against him. Unfortunately, he does put a couple shots into me, but my teammates managed to take him out. Great, so now we're up on numbers. We're actually winning this game. I dropped down into that dip area there to make sure that AMX doesn't have any shots on me. I was being extra cautious. Now I point my frontal armor towards him, just to make sure if he's trying to hit me, he's hitting my frontal armor. Now he's in the open field. I'm trying to take a shot at him. Yes, I hit one shot. Can I get another shot at him? Can I get another one? Come on, reload. Come on, reload. I shoot, and unfortunately, the shot misses. He goes behind the hill. So at this point, I'm saying to myself, let's just chase him a little bit here and catch him running away and see if I can put another shell into him. But unfortunately, he's very fast, so I don't think I'll be able to get to him. Although, at this point, I could see the tank destroyer has gotten into G7 area and is trying to creep up over that hill over there, which gives me opportunity to get some flanking shots onto him. So basically, I come up here, auto aim, I take one shot. Again, Patton is extremely good at auto aiming and snap shooting. And then one of our heavy tanks comes down the hill and takes him out. And I actually think that was a mistake, because I did have clear shots at the tank destroyer. He didn't really have to commit that much. And what happened here, AMX 1390 finds our STI isolated and he takes him out in the process. But now we're still winning this game. We're up 2-1 and basically the game is in the bag. It's almost finished. 44 seconds left. Here I'm trying to look for a shot on AMX. I was hoping he would poke out here so I can take a shot, but he goes down. And at this point, we can start talking about greed. So you can see me here, I'm looking at the E100, and I realize he's completely full health. We are winning this game, and at this point I'm thinking to myself, even if I go after AMX, and if I die, we still have this game in a bag. Therefore, I decided to go damage chasing and see what happens here, guys. I misjudged the shell velocity of my Patton, and unfortunately I pushed the trigger too early. AMX puts one shot into me. Come on, reload, come on. Unfortunately, he puts second shot into me and he takes me out. And what? What just happened? We lost the game. I managed to throw the game. I could not believe it. I was looking in disbelief. What the hell happened? AMX had almost no health left, no health points. My E100 was almost full health and we lost this game? So let's talk about this a little bit. And let's talk about why this actually happened. So the rules of the game are as such that if there are only 2 tanks left, one opposing tank left on each team, and time runs out, the team that causes most distraction wins the game. When I looked at my E100, I was convinced that our team caused more distraction because E100 was almost full health, but the AMX had almost no health left whatsoever. However, it turns out that we had a very heavy lineup, meaning our health point pool was much higher than the opposing team's. So in reality, the opposing team caused more distraction than we did. And I did my math, and here I'm showing you guys on the screen, and you can see what my team did and what the opposing team did. So basically, I made my decision based on the facts that I knew and what I've seen. But what I did not know and what I didn't take under consideration is that fact that because we were a more armored team and we had a lot more health points, the opposing team actually had the ability to cause more damage than we did. So by going after the AMX at the end of the game, basically being greedy to get more damage and get more kills, I cost my team the win. Because the other rule is at the end of the game, if there are more tanks remaining on one side than the other, then the team with more tanks wins. So if I didn't chase the AMX, if I stayed with my E100 and I waited out until AMX comes, then we would have won that game. So basically by that I'm saying that my greed impaired my thought process. But in reality, it wasn't that. It was the information that I did not have. It would be nice that the Wargaming gives us some sort of indicator on the screen that shows which team did more damage, so that way we could be more informed as to what decisions we make. So even though it's my fault for throwing the game, I feel like I did not have enough information in order to make the correct decision. And lastly, let's cover the topic of what makes a good game. A close game. A game that I just had. So what I've done is I've put together a little something, a chart. So in order to understand what creates a balance in a game, we need to understand what kind of players are drawn into each team for any particular match. Therefore, what I've done in this case is I put together a stat comparison of each player on the end screen to try to understand what is the experience level, what is the skill level of each player, so I can draw some conclusions as to why sometimes we get into very crappy games when the game ends in 4 or 5 minutes, which is 13-1, 14-1, and the other way around. And what makes a game like the one I just had, which was so close that it came down to the last seconds. I'm not sure how much understanding you guys have with respect to Win 8, but Win 8 basically determines skill level of players in World of Tanks. What I did was I placed colors corresponding to skill level of each player beside their gamer tag, and the number inside the color represents number of games they've played, lifetime. Now what I've done is I used the Win 8 numbers for the last month because these are most representative of the current statistics for each player. For the players that did not have stats for the last month, I took their overall Win 8 rating and I've drawn it on this end plate over here. From this chart, you can see there's a nice balance of skill level between the two teams. On our team, there were 3 Unicam players, 3 blue players, and quite a few green players, while on the opposing team, there was 1 Unicam player, but 5 blue players, and a nice composition of green and orange. So what this tells me, it all comes down to proper matchmaking. And I'm not really sure how Wargaming determines the matchmaking, but in this case, for this game, matchmaking was fantastic. And one more thing, no artillery. Keep that in mind, guys. No artillery. Fantastic game, no artillery. Something doesn't add up. Or does it add up? Anyway guys, I think I'll end it here. I apologize for rambling so much. I just wanted to make sure I covered the topics that I wanted to cover in this video. This was not an epic game by any stretch of imagination, but it was a perfect game to use to discuss some of these points that I touched upon. I hope this video was informative. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, happy tanking, Space Bandit, checking out.